All right, I come into this video fully aware that this opinion or take is going to be at least a day late, and let's be honest, quite a few dollars short. But I think at this point, even people who do live under rocks would probably have seen or heard at least something out of the Tom Brady roast, dubbed the greatest roast of all time, which aired on Netflix Live this past Sunday. And while greatest roast of all time might be a little bit of a stretch, I mean, certainly it was super funny. I think it's certainly the most important thing we've seen in a while because I'd kind of put it in a transcendent category where it's more than just a comedy event and more than just a sporting event. I think it's fair to even refer to it as kind of a cultural event as much as anything else because for the first time in a while, it feels like it's almost universally okay to laugh at something because give or take the last 10 years, it feels like, and I don't think I'd be the only one to say this, it feels like there's been an increase in selective outrage to name drop a Chris Rock special from a couple of years back. I think it's the kind of thing where people from all walks of life can find something that's funny about it, and I think that's so important these days because again, like I said before, it feels like people just go out of their way to find something to be offended about at times, and for me, I enjoy my dark humor just as much as anybody else. And like, I'm not the guy who's going to refer to myself as woke, nor am I going to refer to myself as, being very much on the other side. Like, I'd kind of consider myself somewhere in the middle. But ultimately, obviously, there have been divides established over the last decade. And I think something like this, it can really help kind of mend some of those fences, whether it's you know, just kind of humor's a good baseline. Like, people always said laughter's the best medicine. Why not prove it with something like this? Now, social and economic differences, they're always going to be a thing. Political ideologies, they're always going to be different. But humor's the kind of thing that can bring people together. And before I get too, you know, woke or overly, preachy or anything like that, that's not the point of what I'm going for here. Because as I mentioned, I very much enjoy my dark humor, and based on the kind of mainstream reaction that it's gotten, it feels like a lot of people are kind of in the same boat, making this kind of runaway success for Netflix, meaning naturally there has to be more in the future. The question is, who's going to be next? And obviously there's been a couple names bandied about here so far, and I think one of the kind of the common ones that I've heard is the possibility of roasting Michael Jordan. And God knows there'd be enough material because obviously his on-court career speaks for itself. The 6 rings with the Bulls, all documented in The Last Dance, which in itself could be a great source of material. But I mean, you get into some of the sordid alleged tales that have kind of befallen his airness or MJ, whatever you want to call him, over the years. And, I think there's enough material to make things happen. But if anyone knows anything about Michael Jordan, it's that he's very kind of not uppity, but very guarded in how he presents himself. Now, do I think he would kind of subject himself to 2.5, 3 hours of this kind of treatment or abuse? Yeah, I mean, I would hope so, but I think in the name of hedging my bets, there's only one real answer. But that's just me. And if it's not Michael Jordan, then who is it? So I think from there you go to maybe Tiger Woods is an option. That's another popular one that I've kind of heard thrown around, whether it's, on shows like First Take or the Pat McAfee show, somewhere along those lines. But yeah, Tiger, he's always been kind of that tightened up, hardened media image as well. Obviously, his dominance in the early to mid 2000s in golf was unquestioned. And on the course, I absolutely consider myself a Tiger fan because of how he revolutionized the game. But at the same time, I think there's absolutely no denying the fact that, it's hard to say this, but The negative headlines have been around almost as long as he was dominant, if not longer at this point. So obviously, there's kind of a tale of two different lives for Tiger. Tiger tale. I wasn't going for that. That was unplanned, unscripted, all that good stuff. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of material to work through there. But kind of like Michael Jordan, I don't know if he would necessarily go for it. Yeah, he's on kind of a promotional media blitz for his Sunday Red brand now, and maybe that's an avenue that he wants to go down. But that might still be a couple of years down the road as he kind of settles into the next stage of his life. Now, the one I haven't really heard of, and this would be kind of a dark horse candidate in my view. What about roasting Lance Armstrong? Because, yeah, he's been out of the public eye for a while, but oh my God, the material that he could have. Obviously, you know, the 7 Tour de France wins, 99 to 2005, all taken away on account of admitted PED usage and the avenue in which he admitted his PED usage. That tell-all interview with Oprah, that alone could give him all the material. But then you look at the Tom Brady roast and you think back to some of the jokes that were told. You have to think that, you know, the testicular cancer of the mid to late 90s, all the high profile relationships he had when he was at his highest, it feels like all of that would be fair game, or just about all of it, if he was to sit down, and it might actually give the man some closure. Like, yeah, it's one thing to kind of admit your faults the way he did in that interview, but there was also plenty of social media ridicule attached to it. And I don't know if I was in that situation, I feel like that's not the way I'd want to go out. So maybe that's just me thinking that. And obviously, you know, there's the idea of maybe he doesn't want to rehash any of that either, which, you know, I'd get that. But at the same time, if he can prove that he can laugh at himself, it's the kind of thing that can really turn around a narrative as well. I mean, see how Mike Tyson turned his narrative around in the last, you know, 10 to 15 years? Like, people forget about the guy who, you know, bit off Evander Holyfield's ear, tore a strip off of that interviewer, you know, on multiple occasions. Now you just think of him as a wise little kind of grandpa figure who just loves pigeons and just wants to be left alone. Like, image rehabilitation is absolutely a thing. And I feel like in the case of Lance Armstrong, that could be, you know, a very interesting avenue to go down, especially if, you know, he wants to kind of have a secondary avenue beyond that particular career that he had. So maybe that's the way he goes. Maybe it's just a rite of passage, so to speak. I mean, he was comedy fodder for years. Bill Burr referred to him as a sociopath on a bicycle. And I feel like that would just be, you know, kind of the tip of the comedic iceberg if we were to go down that particular route. Now, would the jokes be as well delivered as something from the U.S. Postal Service? Who knows? But, you know, I feel like that would be kind of an interesting, underrated choice, and one that, if it's not the next one I'd certainly love to see down the road. But again, that's just me. And yeah, I think, as I say, they could obviously veer away from other sports as well. They could just go full on into the entertainment sphere if they wanted to. I'm sure there's no shortage of targets, but I think, yeah, if we keep it in the sports line, yeah, Lance Armstrong has to be there for me at some point. Now, speaking of being there, I'm getting a little more used to being here on YouTube. I'm just kind of getting the feel of, you know, the content game again, getting a little bit more kind of comfortable back on the on-camera side of things. Like, I can talk a little bit, but, you know, just getting used to this side of things. It takes a little bit of time, but, you know, as I kind of get reacquainted or kind of get my feet under me again, you know, always fun to hear what you think. So if you enjoy what you hear, feel free to like or subscribe. And yeah, still kind of figuring out what I want to do with this, but videos like this, they're not meant to be flashy. They're not meant to be, fantastic editing. I'm being level with you. They're just kind of first steps in whatever I'm thinking. And again, I don't really know what I want to do yet. So we'll have to see how that goes. And yeah, for now, again, like or subscribe, preferably both. And yeah, the next time I got an opinion, I will post it here as well. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.